The Razorbacks defeat the LSU Tigers for the third time this year, and they are advancing into the SEC tournament semifinals at this point. We are streaming live here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Folks, this is a little bit of a different podcast that we are doing. For those of you who are watching live, streaming live actually for this podcast, something I don't think I've really done, but considering the timing and everything for this game, I felt like it was appropriate. So this is going to be live, and so we'll probably have some missteps. We'll probably have some screw-ups and maybe some bloopers and all that stuff, but that's okay. That's fine. That's what makes it fun. Makes it interesting, at least for me. So either way, it's also like just pouring snow here in Little Rock. So that makes it fun and interesting as well. But either way, let's go ahead and dive into it. Arkansas defeats LSU by a final score of 79-67 in the quarterfinal games. And Arkansas finishes 3-0 against LSU this season. First off, I got to say that going into this game, I was a little bit nervous just because LSU and the way that they brought it against Arkansas when Bud Walton Arena, I thought that it was going to be one of those difficult games, difficult matchups. I thought that it would be one of those games that, it just because it's so hard to beat a team twice in one season, much less three times in one season, that Arkansas would struggle against LSU, especially because LSU has a lot more to play for right now. The uncertainty of Audis Toney going into this game also made me a little bit suspect. I thought that perhaps, given his circumstance, that maybe he would sit out for the game. But when he got the go-ahead before the game started to play, I immediately started feeling a little bit better about it because suddenly, like, my confidence started getting built up where you're playing this LSU team that played a lot of guys, a lot of minutes in yesterday's game against Missouri. And you have Toney, who's obviously healthy enough, 100%, to be in this game. I don't think Eric Musselman would put him in that game at all if he wasn't healthy or anything like that. So, all things considered, it seemed like it was the right move. And the way that Arkansas started in the game was extremely impressive. For the first 4 minutes, really, I was like, okay, this is exactly what you want to see. Guys are hitting shots. They're coming in. They're making plays and getting it done and all of that. But then it went through this lull, a very long lull. In fact, it was like 8 minutes with Arkansas without going a field goal. Disgusting. I was started to think that, maybe they kind of hit a little bit of a draw to where they're not going to be able to finish out strong in the first half. But luckily for them, LSU was just as terrible, if not worse, at shooting. So it kind of was back and forth a little bit. The game kind of went back and forth a little bit. And towards the end of the half, LSU actually had, I believe, a 3-point lead. And for whatever reason, Arkansas got fouled, and they were going to go to the free throw line. Well, Will Wade, this is with less than a minute to go, it felt like. But Will Wade just loses his mind. He starts going crazy and gets a technical. Earlier in that game, I saw that he was losing his mind. And I was like, okay, this guy's the biggest baby to ever exist. Somebody get the squirt bottle out and spray him down. Be like, calm down, buddy. There's no reason to lose your mind like you do. And he got a technical. He got teed up. And, usually when coaches get technicals or plan on doing technicals or whatever it may be, it's usually one of those things that, it gives them their team motivation. It gives them motivation to go out there and play a lot better. Did not happen when Will Wade got his technical foul. It actually did quite the opposite effect where Arkansas ended up going on what was a 19-0 run towards, of course, not only the end of the first half, but leading into the second half. And Arkansas never looked back after that point. Just complete and total domination by the Razorbacks. I think the closest that LSU got was 10 points in the second half, or at least after that point, maybe 9 points. But for overall, it was just Arkansas's game in the second half, and we're not going to be denied. Arkansas scored 29 points in the first half, 50 points in the second half. And I know we'll get to some individual performances and all of that here in a bit too. But I can't tell you how excited I am for Razorbacks, because, this is the time to really be playing your best basketball. And Arkansas went through a stretch where they did not play well. Like, they did not play good basketball at all. But they are still finding ways to overcome certain obstacles. And I think in this game in particular, kind of what it was to Tennessee, you had to overcome the obstacle of Toney and not really knowing how healthy he was going to be. Now, obviously, Toney played great. Phenomenal game at him. 22 points. Like, for a guy on a bad ankle, for 22 points and 10 rebounds, okay, we will take that. But, like, for him to come and do and play the way he did, I think that gave that motivation to where any sort of doubt that the Arkansas Razorback basketball team had, or any sort of concern they may have had with Toney not being 100%, it got thrown by the wayside quickly when they started seeing Toney in the way that he was playing in this game. I think that because of that, it kind of inspired the team, where Jalen Williams did not have, his best game. Still got 11 rebounds, but he only had 6 points. Note went out and got his. He was 4 of 14 from the field, but still got 19 points out of him. And we'll actually talk about another player, Chris Lykes, here in just a bit, and dive into him and what he did. But just the fact that this team was able to overcome those things and to go out there and play exactly like you would want a team to play against LSU, and the fact that you just played LSU, a week and a half ago in Fayetteville, and that game was about as close as you could ever see or ever ask for. And the response after that game, when you're going on a neutral court, which I know that LSU played yesterday, so people are going to bring up the fatigue factor and everything like that. But the fact that you came out and played the way you did and set the tone the way you did and never really looked back, especially when you went 8 minutes without a field goal in the first half and you had a lead. You were shooting like 20% at the end of the first half, 20% from the field, and you had a 3-point lead. That's when I knew there was no way that Arkansas was going to be denied in this game. They continue to find ways to win. It may not be pretty. It may not be sexy. It may not be something that makes you just get pumped up and excited about all the time, but it's a winning formula. As long as they keep winning this game, that's what matters the most. And we'll talk more about particular players and the performance that they had here in just one second. But first, I got to tell you about Built Bar, folks. We know that it's that time of year where maybe some of us are giving up on our New Year's resolutions of trying to lose some weight. Hey, it happens. It's fine. But that doesn't mean you can't get back on the wagon. That doesn't mean you can't start making it happen again. And Built Bar is one of the best things to make that happen for you, because not only do they have so many delicious flavors to choose from, not only are they a type of protein bar that tastes amazing because it's covered in 100% chocolate, but because you watch or listen to this podcast, we have a great deal for you. If you go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, you'll get 15% off your next order. It's as simple as that. Just go to built.com, enter in promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off, no matter how many you order at built.com. Be sure to check it out.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so to talk about some individual players in this game in particular, I really want to give a shout out to two guys. One of them we already talked about, but the other one we're going to really dive into more depth about. First off, let's start with Toney. Toney has been one of my favorite players this year. I know that JD Note has gotten all the very well-deserved praise and credit. Jalen Williams, the same thing. Both players, first team All-SEC, 100% deserving. Stanley Umude has been so much fun to watch sometimes. Like he's just got the best all-around game when it comes to how he plays than anyone else on the court. Like, there are players on this team that give a lot of credit and are very much deserving of it. But Toney, to me, has been the complete and total X factor for this team. And he is the reason why they are in position to be a possible 3 seed in the SEC, possibly even win the SEC tournament this year. The difference between that or being an 8 or 9 seed in this year's tournament. Au'Diese Toney has been that X factor. And so I just believe that from what he's been able to do game in and game out defensively, where he doesn't put up a lot of points, of course he did in this one, but he doesn't really fill up the box score. He doesn't put things together. He doesn't put all the, he doesn't make the player of the week or player of the day or, MVP of the games a lot. Like, he's just not that type of player. But the things that he does is that he is able to completely and totally take this team to a championship level based on his defense and his defense alone. Now, he scored 22 points in this game. 22 points. Not a single play was ran for him. 6 of 11 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point land, 8 of 10 from the free throw line. He had 10 rebounds. He had 2 assists, only 1 turnover in this game, mind you. And I was trying to see if there's any other stats that he had. He also had, so it was 7 defensive rebounds and 3 offensive rebounds for him in this game too. Like, that's incredible. On a bad ankle. This dude has a bad ankle. He did not play against Tennessee this past weekend. He also was in a walking boot. Did not practice all week, was in a walking boot and being seen yesterday in the Tampa area. And he goes on and goes 22 and 10 with a bad ankle. And that's not even his game. It's his defense that brings it. But if you can tell me that you can count on Au'Diese Toney to be able to step up in these ways, that's going to be a difference maker. So we know how great he was in this game and how pivotal he is too. But I also want to give another shout out to a very important and particular player that deserves a lot of the credit. And because I'll be honest, I'm one of those people that criticize him a lot. I know a lot of you listening and watching to this podcast, you probably have had similar criticisms towards him. I believe that too. But Chris Lykes in this game deserves a huge attaboy. Like, the guy was incredible, where he shows so many flashes of being great. Like, I feel like I don't want to call him a disappointment, but he definitely never really has lived up to how good I believe he could or should be. Like, he had 18 points in this game. He had a rebound. He had 2 assists. He had some big shots and, of course, some big free throws as well. Had some crucial plays, like 3 steals in this game too, and only 1 turnover. Now, he did commit 4 personal fouls, which you never want to see. I think Au'Diese Toney committed 4 personal fouls as well as Stanley Umude. But still, Chris Lykes only played 18 minutes in this game. Toney played, let's see how many, no, he didn't play at 18. That's his point total. I got to look at his minutes real quick. So Chris Lykes played 29 minutes in this game. Toney played 38 minutes in this game. Note played 32 minutes in this game. So Lykes did play a few more minutes than what he's normally used to. But as we hear from Eric Musselman when it comes to these games and how he handles coaching, is that minutes aren't given, they're earned. And if you're in the game and you're doing a lot of great things, you get the minutes. And sometimes I feel like it kind of gets overlooked a little bit. And that's the philosophy that Eric Musselman runs with. Because sometimes, I'm guilty of this as much as anybody. So I'm not trying to say anybody else is doing this. But there are times where I look at Chris Lykes and I'm like, get him out of the game. He's causing problems. And sometimes I'm right. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes we are justified in having those opinions. But like today, he made a bad play. He took a bad shot, a bad 3 too. I even tweeted, I was like, Chris Lykes, stop it. Stop doing that. And I was expecting for him to possibly get taken out because we know that that's what Eric Musselman does. If you ain't doing a good job, if you're having some problems there, you're out of here. You're gone. We're not doing this. I thought that was going to be the case. But much to my surprise and my pleasant surprise, he didn't. He left him in because, of course, he knows a lot more than me, and he's a better coach than me. And I am glad that he is because he left him in. He performed really well. He made some really good plays, and he closed out the game in a fashion that you would want to see from him. If you can count on Chris Lykes to be able to give you that a little bit more often, especially, then what's to keep this team from playing for in the Final Four? Like, what's to keep this team from possibly playing for a national championship? Like, who is going to keep them from doing that? Now, listen, we'll talk about the next matchup here in a second, but I just feel like with Arkansas and getting the guys on board and on the same page at the exact right time, making sure you got to keep Toney healthy and making sure you limit your own mistakes. Don't turn the ball over too much or anything like that. Like, bad shooting stretches are going to happen because this team's not a great shooting team. It hasn't been. It never will be. So let's just drop it. Let's try to pretend. Let's stop trying to pretend that this team can do that. They can't. It's over. It's done with. They got to move on. But if this team can play defense the way that they have been, limit their mistakes, and be able to count on some other guys besides J.D. Note and Jalen Williams to bring it like they did in this game, there's no reason why this team can't contend for a national championship. I'm not just saying that. I truly believe it. And who's to say that they can't win the SEC tournament title for the first time since 2000? We'll talk about that and the matchup and the craziness that went along with it. But it is that time of year again, folks, as the college basketball tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores and podcasts and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline has been your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions over at betonline.net, where the game starts.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here in the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, the live edition, which I appreciate everybody watching live and being able to have some fun with it too. Arkansas is moving on into the SEC tournament. Now, I would have ventured and guessed that Arkansas would probably be playing Auburn in the semifinals if Arkansas were to beat LSU. That was going to be my presumption. And especially when this past week, Zep Jasper, the guard for Auburn, talked about how much that Auburn wanted to play Arkansas again because of the disrespect that Arkansas showed them. So disrespectful. I would have thought that, man, that would be a very heated matchup. And if Arkansas has to play Auburn again, man, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough because Auburn's a really good team. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect, but I felt very strongly that Arkansas and Auburn would more than likely meet in the semifinals. Yeah, they're not. Instead, Arkansas has advanced to the semifinals, and they will be facing the Texas A&M Aggies, just like we all thought. You know, the 8 seed Texas A&M Aggies, you know them, you know, the team that Arkansas played twice this year and beat them once at home and really kind of should have beat them on the road. But that Texas A&M team that as of right now, according to Joe Lunardi, is not even in the NCAA tournament. You know, that team that was kind of dead in the water and is not very good and doesn't have a lot of offense and all that. Yeah, that team beat Auburn 67-62. You just hate to see it, don't you, folks? You just hate to see that Auburn, for some reason, I mean, they are a blue blood, right? That's what we were told. And I mean, they are one of the best teams in the country. That's what we're told. And Jasper was so concerned about this game. He's like, I can't wait to face him again. Okay. Maybe old Jasper, you should have been focused a little bit more on Texas A&M and a little less on Arkansas. And I loved, if you watch that clip, first off, he's like talking about, he's like, I don't really care much about Florida because he thought Florida was going to beat A&M. Oh, I hope we get Arkansas again. Well, you get none of them. You get none of them. You don't get to face any of those teams that beat you because you lost in the quarterfinals. You, Auburn, are 1-4 away from the jungle in your past 5 games. 1-4. You are a mentally soft team right now. Is anybody buying stock in Auburn to go to the Final Four or play for the national championship? I'm not at all. I'm selling that stock. I mean, I am putting all my money on somebody else, maybe even Arkansas, but I ain't putting it on Auburn. So I just love the fact that Arkansas doesn't get to play Auburn again because Auburn lost. And it just was so great. And to A&M of all people, like I found myself rooting for A&M, and I just wanted to, punch myself in the face repeatedly and hold my nose while I was doing it. But they still won. They give them all the credit in the world. That was incredible. I mean, that was an incredible run by them. And so I just, give a lot of kudos to Texas A&M and the way they played. So that's the next game tomorrow, Arkansas and Texas A&M. I would like to think that Arkansas will win. I'd like to think that they would be favored. I'd like to think that, Arkansas coming off of a nice win against LSU and A&M's already played. This will be their third game to play in a row. I'm hoping that Arkansas will be able to take care of business. And if they do, they will go to the SEC championship game and more than likely face Kentucky, in my opinion. That's probably who they're going to end up facing if they get there. And just as God intended, for Arkansas and Kentucky to be in the SEC tournament and the SEC championship game. Now, who wins there? Don't know, because Kentucky's really good. But Arkansas, if you're a Razorback fan, this is all you could have asked for, to play Texas A&M and not Auburn. Not to say that you'd be afraid of Auburn, but you want to get the most favorable matchup. And A&M is a more favorable matchup to you than Auburn. I like their chances, and especially the fact that, A&M's already played 2 games, and they got a third one coming up. And Arkansas was able to be fairly fresh for this one. I love your chances. And this is exactly what you would have wanted if you're a Razorback fan to try to do it. So I'm trying to decide. I may do another live stream tomorrow because a lot of people started watching. I'm seeing the numbers. Incredible. Thank you so much for watching this. This is awesome. And so I may continue to do like a live deal tomorrow after the game, just kind of depending on how everything's set up, just for fun. I know it's not a weekday, but I think there would be enough to go on to be able to make it pretty exciting and get people hyped up and watching it. But yeah, it's just great. Razorback fans, go out and celebrate and have a good old time. Tomorrow, Texas A&M, the Aggies. Let's hope that you can, in your third trip for the rubber match in this case, be able to take 2 out of 3 and get you ready for the SEC championship game and see if you can continue to improve on those seedings too, because that's going to be really important as well. Well, appreciate everybody listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. Also, subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you have not done that yet, please do that. Leave a like, share it, whatever you want to do. Make it all happen. We're going to have some fun with it, especially during this postseason. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can follow me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel, possibly tomorrow afternoon. Have a great Friday. Stay warm out there, folks, and we will see you then.